Today I'm gonna go ahead and replace the alternator on my 2004 Ford Explorer Sport Trac. So to remove the alternator, you can actually see it right here. It does look like it is covered by these cables that run to it. I also got the air intake here. Probably remove that as well, this cover. Since it is a part of the electrical system, the first thing I'm gonna go ahead and do is just remove the battery. So first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and disconnect the battery. I'm actually just gonna go ahead and disconnect the negative terminal here, which is just with an 11mm socket. Just like that. Now that the battery is disconnected, again, we're just gonna try to make some clearance for the alternator here. I'm gonna start by removing this plastic cover as well as the tube here. So went ahead and removed that plastic cover. Next thing is remove this tubing. You just don't want to damage anything while you remove it. So I'm actually going to remove this tube here. Just move it out of the way like that. And then we're going to disconnect the mass airflow sensor. Just like that. Move it off to the side. So now that's freed up. Just use a flathead to actually loosen it from here.
See that the clamp starts to loosen up there? Don't be too much.
Turn, pull it off like that. On this left side here, there's a couple of clips. Just loosen by pulling up. Has some tabs at the end that kind of push into some holes, which I can just pull out in this direction. These are the tabs I was talking about, but we went ahead and removed this. So now that we got the cover removed, the air intake tube removed, next thing I'm actually gonna do is get the belt off of the alternator there. It's a little bit cumbersome, but you'll kind of see down below here is the tensioner for the belt. I actually already have my ratchet on there. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and loosen it up. And if I could just remove the alternator part, I'll do that. If I have to remove the whole belt, then I'll just do that because does have like a diagram right here and how it goes back on. So in the case that I have to remove it, I know how to put it back on. So side view of it, I'm not gonna be able to get the best shot of the tensioner, but alternator is right here. The pulley tensioner is right directly down below. What I have to do is basically push down on the tensioner.
Gonna loosen up the tension on the belt here. I should be able to just remove it from the alternator here.
And now we have the belt off the alternator. So now what I'm gonna go ahead and do, since we have the belt off, is actually take off all these connections here. This one at the top, you kind of just give it a good wiggle and it'll kind of come out. I think when it was tighter before, you kind of have to lift this tab here, but we're just able to wiggle that one out. Same thing with the second one, just give it a gentle pull, comes right out. And then this last one here, move the camera for this last connection, but it's this plastic one that's covered here. I just kind of pull it back and twist it. You see it'll reveal this 10mm nut right here.
Once you crack it, it's pretty loose, but basically just remove it the whole way.
Just pull off the connector. So now you see we got all these removed. It is held on by a clip here. So you just give it a good pull. It comes right out. Move it completely out of the way. Now that we have all those connections removed, we got the belt off. The only thing holding in the alternator here is actually these 3 bolts. They're all 13mm, so what I'm gonna go ahead and do is just remove them, and then we'll go ahead and get the alternator out of there, clean up where it's bolted to, and then we'll put the new one in. should be able to try to remove this. This is bracket here too that it's kind of connected on. I'm going to remove this as well in a second. Went ahead and removed the alternator. For the bracket here, just have this clip removal tool. We'll get it under, lift up. Should free it up just like that.
So here we have the old alternator, and on this side, it's going to be the new one. Make sure there's nothing that I would need to like transfer over from one to the other. Make sure the pulleys look around the same size, which looks like they are. Same amount of teeth in here, which looks like it is. Just want to see if all the connectors on the back are the same, which it does look like they are.
So a couple days later, they did actually send me the wrong alternator at first, so I went ahead and got another one. Same direction. I went ahead and double checked before getting it. It's definitely the right one. A couple things that are going to have to happen is that this bracket here, we're going to have to move it over to the new one, as well as this bolt over here for the top. Has this extra little bracket to get the wiring harness clipped on there. And then we should be able to just install this new one. This is actually where we're going to mount the alternator onto. It doesn't look to be too dirty. Not too long ago, I went ahead and replaced my valve cover gaskets. I did have to remove the alternator to do that, so I kind of cleaned up a little bit, but I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with some brake clean here.
It does ground out to the spot right here.
Alright, we're gonna go ahead and get it installed. So here we have the alternator ready to be mounted. I'm gonna go ahead and put some thread locker on these bolts here because it is gonna be spinning. I wouldn't want it to like back out or anything. So we're gonna go ahead and install the alternator now. I'm gonna get some thread locker on the top bolt here. Not too much. So now that we got them all snugged up, I'm gonna go ahead and get them torqued down. So we're gonna go ahead and torque all these to 35 foot-pounds. 1, 2, 3. All right, so those are all tightened down. Now we just gotta reconnect everything. So it's gonna clip in right there, here. This connection should just be able to push right in. That's one. Get the second one here lined up. Same thing, should be able to just put it straight in. So now that we have the alternator in place, we're gonna get this belt back on. There's a tool that you could use to try to loosen the tension. I don't have that tool, so I just have a ratchet inside of the tensioner and a wrench on top of the ratchet handle to make it a little bit longer. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead and pull it. You can see the belt loosens up here. I'm just gonna get it under the tensioner. You wanna make sure all the other ones are lined up. The AC compressor, the water pump, everything looks good. So then we should be able to just let it go. And then the belt's back on. There goes my ratchet. So now that we have the alternator in place with the belt on, that pretty much completes the installation for it. Now what we have to do is get everything else back into the car. The air tubing intake, the air box here. We'll get the battery back in the car, and then we'll go ahead and start it up and see how it works. In here we got the new alternator in. It is a little bit noisy right now. I'll see if it quiets down, or maybe that's just how it comes. But everything's running good. I don't see anything loose or leaking or Nothing out of the ordinary, no clanking sound. So I think with this one, we went ahead and successfully replaced it.